It's safe to say that quite a lot of people, including myself, are looking forward to getting their hands on Dark Souls 3, and I have some rather interesting comments from the creator of the franchise, Hidetaka Miyazaki from Software, who had some nice bits to say to GameSpot regarding some of the concerns that people have from the beta, and also the future of Dark Souls as a franchise. Now basically, the interviewer asked, and I will put the full interview in the description below this video with a link, basically said, well, the beta got a bit of a mixed response, and there weren't very many surprises for those of us who are veterans of the series. It felt very familiar and comfortable, which is not really what you'd expect from a Souls game. And basically there's some concerns that it might be a bit too similar to previous titles. And here's what Miyazaki had to say about that. Quote, actually, the slice of the game shown in the beta is one of the most standard parts. The creation of the game began by working on the very standard elements and achieving a balance there, so we can all be at the same starting point. I certainly won't be the case where the feeling you had with the beta will continue into the entirety of the game. You won't have to worry about that. Now, the interviewer also asked, well, over the last few years we've had Dark Souls 2, Scholar of the First Sin, Bloodborne, of course we've got Dark Souls 3 coming fairly soon. Is there perhaps a concern of overexposure? And this paragraph that Miyazaki said here is the most interesting, because it perhaps may point an end towards the Souls franchise, and maybe even the fact that we won't see another Bloodborne game. And he said, quote, it'd be a lie if I said I have no concerns about that. I don't think it would be the right choice to continue indefinitely creating Souls and Bloodborne games. I'm considering Dark Souls 3 to be the big closure on the series. That's not just limited to me, but From Software and myself together want to aggressively make new things in the future. Dark Souls 3 will mark the last game where development project began before I became president. The next title will be a game that was conceived while I was president. I believe that From Software has to create new things. There will be new types of games coming from us, and Dark Souls 3 is an important marker in the evolution of From Software. I don't care about what type of president I will be in the future or how I'll be remembered. I just believe that moving on is necessary in order for players to continue enjoying our games. We have to keep creating quality games and be aggressive about doing new things. So from the sound of what he said there, this might actually be the last we see of Dark Souls. It sounds like he feels Dark Souls 3 should be the last Souls game. Now, I would think most people would agree that ending Dark Souls on a franchise of 3 is pretty good. You know, it's sad to have a good franchise go, but I've always said it's better to go while you're still riding high rather than just drive a series into the ground like we've seen so many times. My concern is, does this mean no more Bloodborne as well? Because I feel like Bloodborne deserves at least one sequel. It was such a good game, and I actually prefer it to Dark Souls just for the combat. It's more my kind of style, fast-paced, dodging around rather than slow-paced with a shield and stuff like that. I love Dark Souls, don't get me wrong, but I prefer Bloodborne's slightly faster-paced style. Even if it was still balls hard, but that's kind of what we all expect from Software, I suppose. So I hope that we still get another Bloodborne game. Obviously there is the DLC that just came out, pretty much. So there is that, that's cool. But I hope that we get another Bloodborne game, but it seems at least for Dark Souls this might indeed be it. Now he hasn't 100% confirmed that we will never see Dark Souls again, but it sounds like they're kind of thinking, hey, this has been great, but we need to move on to new things, and I'm sure whatever new IP they come up with will be great. And the final thing that I want to touch on from this interview, and as I said, the full interview will be linked below. It is quite long, I suggest you read it, it's interesting. Basically, the person asked, well, how beholden to the previous 2 games will Dark Souls be? There are references to Lords of Cinder, but is it going to be ambiguous in the same way previous games has? Or is it going to be a clear and direct thing, given that you want it to be the final chapter? Which would kind of make sense. And he said, quote, I wouldn't make everything completely clear about a story, but there is a conclusion to a large theme that has continued throughout the entire series, something that will leave you with the impression of what Dark Souls was really about, tell you about the overarching theme. Some very interesting comments from Miyazaki there, and although it makes me sad to think that this could be the last Dark Souls game, as I said, in a way it's better that it goes while it's still riding high rather than just being ground out for sequels because money. I'm interested to see what they're going to work on after this. As I said, I've got my fingers crossed still for a Bloodborne sequel, but even if not, I'm sure whatever they work on in the future will be amazing. From Software have definitely marked themselves in the hearts of many gamers as a developer to watch out for. Thank you very much for watching. Do let me know your thoughts and opinions. I'll see you next time.